In this video, guys, we're going to look at Forex signals, scams, and warnings. Stay tuned. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. So, Forex is littered with crooks, black hat guys, all this kind of shifty characters and companies trying to extract money from your pocket and stick it into theirs. And one of the things that they do is operate these Forex signals. Now, I'm going to say something that doesn't quite agree with the majority here. And I'm going to say that not all Forex signals are scams. Let me explain why. Now, if you're subscribed to the channel, perhaps you've watched the video we talked about Forex robots being scams, and potentially 95% of them are, and being very cautious of avoiding them because they're curve fitted, they're back tested, all this kind of stuff which doesn't quite link in with what future direction may be. That's very, very similar to Forex signal scams. The guy selling the Forex, or the girl selling the Forex signals, is someone who is saying, hey, buy now, sell now, buy this, sell this, buy this, sell this. And they may well sell it based on prior history. They might say, hey, you know what, I've got a decent return. I've got like 20% a month return the last month, whatever it may be, right? And you think, okay, that's pretty good. And you think you want to give it a try. Now, the first thing you've got to think is that a lot of people will say this. They'll say, well, if they're such a good, great trader, why are they selling signals? This is where I differ from people saying this all the time. You know, there are traders out there. There's a couple of things, right? There are traders out there who are good, but they're awful with real money. I've seen them. They're genuinely good traders. They can trade. But when it comes to having real money on the line, they lose the plot. And so rather than them just disappearing and doing something else, they think, well, if I kind of sell the signals and I don't trade it for real, I can make some money, some other guys can make some money, and everyone's going to be happy. And that makes sense, right? Now, they're a minority. I think a lot of these are scamming types, but that's valid and that's something you can dig into and see. Others may well be saying, okay, well, I can trade and I can trade with real money, but when I start to increase my position size, then I start to get a little bit more concerned. Or quite a logical thing, just like a hedge fund would do, they're saying, all right, well, if I'm selling my signals for, you know, $100 a month, right? They're selling the signals for $100 a month, and they've got, I don't know, 50 people who are subscribed to their signal service, so they're getting $5,000 a month from it. Yeah, not too shabby, right? They can say to themselves, okay, just like a hedge fund, I'm getting a management fee, if you like, of $5,000. I'm getting that regardless, and I'm also trading it as well. I can afford to trade and still lose maybe, say, $1,000 and still be up 4,000 on the month. Right, so I cap my risk. If I'm trading well, I can add maybe another 3,000 or 4,000. That could be up 5,000, 10,000 on the month. So you can see from a pure commercial perspective why someone would say, well, you know, it basically ensures that I have something coming in, but allows me to create some juice on the top by trading for it. Now, of course, if they're losing regularly, those subscriber numbers are going to drop off, so it's never going to be there. But what it does mean is if perhaps their performance wasn't enough to make enough money to cover what they need to, they've still got the money there coming in from that. And I get that from a kind of commercial perspective, right? You get that too. It makes sense as long as they're reasonably good and they're providing, you know, a decent amount of value, $100 worth of value to someone. You can see why that's a mutually beneficial relationship. So there's two that I think are okay, and I think that makes sense, right? But most of them fall into this next category. Most of them fall into the category where they are just purely trying to get as many people as possible into their sales funnel. They're trying to get people in there saying, hey, we're so great with this, that, we don't lose money. And they just churn and burn, and they spend so much on marketing that, you know, that 50 is not going to be the same 50 in 4 months' time. There's going to be so many dropping off, so many coming in. And they realize that because, you know, they highlight stuff that's good marketing tools. So they say, oh, look, we've made, you know, 500 pips in the last 5 days. They don't mention the fact that for the last 25 days, you've lost 2,000 pips. That kind of stuff is selectively showing stuff that you want to see. You know, they hype things up, they get you all fired up. You go, I think I'll try it out for a couple of months. You use $200 or $300 on it. It doesn't really work out. They put someone else in, they drop out. That's the way they operate. Now, Is that a scam? It probably is a little bit. I'm not as quite as unhappy with this as I am with some of these robot things. I think these are loads of worse, you know, because there are guys who can still show you something. You still can get 300 bucks worth of value. You know, you maybe if you're sitting in a trading room or something and you're learning from them, then I think that's fair enough. And I think that you can learn a lot from these guys if they're a decent trader. If they're just giving you signals and you don't really know why they're giving you signals, is there any value to that? That's debatable, because if you don't know the signal and why it's being done, you're not actually learning anything. You kind of got to follow them blindly in, follow them blindly out. I'm definitely not an advocate of doing that, especially if you're not learning and not improving yourself. If you're learning and it's explaining perhaps the entry and the exit as well, and maybe they're losing money, they've lost money for the month or a couple of months, I still think you get some value out of that, right? Because you're learning the decision-making process, you're using that setup and strategy as a foundation to build your own. And as long as you're not blindly following this guy thinking he's a genius or she's a genius, you're probably going to be okay. The problem I have is when people are firing anonymous signals, they maybe have got some ulterior motive to keep you trading frequently or actively or whatever it is. They're kind of hidden away, they're not showing you or teaching you or anything, and you're just getting this signal that says, hey, buy US dollar JPY now, and you buy it, and then it comes down and say, you know, sell it now or buy. And that to me just seems, it doesn't seem to make any sense. You know, I think that's verging on a scam, because ultimately they're probably, you know, like I say, utilizing data that's not really accurate. Maybe they're kind of massaging it a little bit within the realms of the law still. So I would generally avoid that. So just to recap, guys, avoid signal services that are just giving you spitting out signals, because, you know, they could be tossing a coin, right? They could genuinely be tossing a coin and going, yeah, it's heads, right, send those guys along. Toss the coin again, oh, it's heads, that means go long on Euro US dollar. Toss the coin again, you get the point. It could be that, you would have no idea. And that may well, a coin toss may well work for a certain period of time, as we've done. If you subscribe, you've seen when we've visualized, you know, 50-50 stuff, how you can get a sequence of winners. So that could work for a while and you'll be none the wiser. So be very careful about that. As I say, I'm a little bit less concerned about people who are providing maybe an educational service. If you think you're getting some value from them, by all means don't follow them into every trade. But if it's, you know, a bit of money that you can afford to spend a few months in there and learn something from it, then it might push you forward in your learning career. Even if you spot the guy's doing this and he's absolutely nuts for doing this, he goes on tilt with this, and you learn what not to do, it's still a learning experience. But, you know, be very cautious about that. And then again, justifying why someone would do that, I get it, I understand why someone would do that. In a real perfect environment, someone would be out there and they'd be turning 1 million, you know, 100K into a million into a billion. We know that doesn't always work like that. So I kind of get why some people would decide to offer these services. And again, if it's a mutually beneficial relationship, then there's no point in screaming from the rooftops and saying, I'm being scammed. You know, as long as you're getting something out of it and they're getting something out of it, that seems fair to me. It's when it's one-sided and there's a bit of misinformation, a bit of cloak and dagger stuff, that's the things that bother me. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Interested to know what you guys have got to think about this. Otherwise, whatever you're up to, keep your risk managed, keep your eyes open for this kind of stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.